is Shawn Michaels, and I am a singer musician. I did AXO years ago, and I was in Albany, New York, where I am originally from. I performed and did some things locally, so someone referred me to actually do the local competition. Gwen Pope actually is the one that referred me to do the local competition, and I auditioned for the local competition, made those rounds, and then I did the national competition. I believe I went to Chicago. Sure, the local level for me was I don't want to say easy. I want to say I was more comfortable doing the local level because I was familiar with some of the judges and some of the other people who were competing. I had friends from high school who were in the art category doing other things other than music. And I had my godmother who was helping me prepare for the competition. So I felt very confident going into it. So that was very easy and exciting to do the local competition. I remember when I was doing the national competition, it was kind of a different story because those students were on a whole nother level. And it was eye-opening for me. It was good to see people who were operating at a higher level than I was in my profession, which now is music, but then it was just like something that I love to do. So the local competition was pretty easy. The national competition was pretty difficult. Yes, so competing in those areas helped me because I was a very shy person. I kept my own circle of friends. I didn't go outside of that much. And AXO put me in a position where I had to be social and communicate with other people outside of my area. And it also gave me opportunities to travel outside of my area to be able to like see the world in a different way. So it was wonderful in that way that it gave me those experiences. From a singer standpoint, I got to hear different types of music. I was raised in the church, so a lot of gospel music was pretty much what I sang all the time, and of course R&B. But I heard classical music being done by young Black students for the first time at AXO, and that was life changing because it opened up a whole new avenue of what I could do with my talent. I think it's very important that we compete because we are the trailblazers in those areas. I know sometimes it's made to seem like we're not, but we are actually the trailblazers in those areas. We are the creators of a lot of the music styles that we know today as the popular styles. So I think when you're able to compete in those areas with your peers, I think it pushes you to do more than you would normally do in your local area. It makes you want to be better, and it shows you a whole different world of artists. And I think that that's very important for you to be able to do that as an artist, as a creative. I remember being, like I said, very shy initially going into the AXO program. And there is a specific incident of meeting someone who I still have a lifelong friendship with. His name is Damian Sneed, and he's a amazing conductor doing great things, New York and abroad. But I met him at AXO, and I remember walking past the practice room and hearing someone just playing on the piano. He's playing, I think he was playing some Clark Sister music or something. And so I kind of peeked my head in, and I, from that, a relationship developed that lasted my whole entire life. He is like my brother now, but also he is someone who we run into each other in our professional circles. So it's almost like you can create relationships, and it's almost like your own fraternity when you do that, because if you continue in that area, I think that you can establish those relationships early, and then you have people doing huge things. If I'm doing something, I can call him in and be like, Damien, can you come and play for me for this? And he can say, Shawn, can you come and sing for me for this? So I think it's really important to develop those relationships early in life. And I think AXO is one of those places where that can definitely happen. It happened for me. I would say going into it, first of all, I would say do it. And because I think that if it comes across your path, I think it's something that probably is meant for you to do. And I would say when you do it, I would say be secure in your talent and in your gift, but also be open to learning and be open to growing. You're going to come across people who are more advanced than you are in those areas, in some way, shape, or form. And they probably have something that you don't have, and you probably have something that they don't have. So always be open to collaborate and to growing and to establishing relationships while you're doing it. But I definitely would advise anyone, especially from my hometown, Albany, I would advise you to please to do it and to allow your gifts and your talents to be heard on that platform, especially. I just am honored to be able to speak to young people anytime I get a chance to, because I think that, they're the ones that are going to literally change the world as we know it. So I just say be encouraged, stay encouraged, and continue to do what brings you joy and continue to follow your passion. And don't be afraid. Just do it. That's what I would give advice.
My name is Tamika Otis. I'm Corporate Responsibility and Community Relations Officer for KeyBank. I'm responsible for two major things at the bank, right? There's the philanthropic giving through KeyBank Foundation. So I manage all of our philanthropic giving for the Central New York and Capital Region market. So all of the nonprofit giving, the big checks that you see presented, I manage all of the deployment of those funds. And then I also help to manage the compliance side, particularly as it relates to low to moderate income communities and majority minority communities, to make sure that we are upholding all of our commitments in all of those communities as a bank. My experience with EXO is very personal. Growing up, I thought I was going to be Beyonce, even though I'm older than Beyonce. So I wanted to be Beyonce before there was a Beyonce to be. But I wasn't just in my mirror singing. I was very serious about my craft and did a lot of different talent shows and a lot of different pageants. And one of the pageants that I won, someone told me that I should try out for AXO. I had never heard of it. And I went and I auditioned. I got in. I was part of a cohort for a vocal presentation, and so we got to train, I got mentored. I had a lot of stage presence issues, very, very shy at the time. I always felt like I was going to throw up before I sang, but I had wonderful mentors that talked me through. I didn't win, I didn't go on to the next phase, but I got tremendous feedback that really helped me in my not only my singing career, but also my career now as a public speaker, that I still hold with me today. I learned through the AXO program the importance and the value of having a mentor, because I did some things through AXO that I thought I could never do. I was very, very scared to sing in front of people. I had done it through my church through small crowds, but the AXO competition was going to be the largest crowd that I had to sing in front of. And then also just getting the constructive feedback, learning how to receive that and make it a value add and not something that deters me from my dream. The connections that I made at AXO, some of them I still have to this day. And I really, really appreciated the feedback. And some of the feedback that I remember was about having confidence in my preparation, having confidence in the foundation that I had so that when it was time to execute, I wasn't thinking about all the things to make it work. Just think about performing, be free. Because I would overanalyze things a lot of times. And so that feedback really helped me in my singing career. I'm not singing professionally anymore, but that has also transferred to, my speaking career, and not overthinking things, having a lot of confidence in my preparation so that when it's time to deliver, that's all I'm doing. I'm not thinking about what I should say, how I should say it. And again, that feedback has held me all of these years. I competed in AXO in 1994. I'm dating myself, I know, but it's been a lot of years, and I still hold on to a lot of the feedback that I got during that time. First and foremost, there hasn't been a lot of representation in these spaces. So one of the things that I appreciated the most about the AXO program was that everybody looked like me. It was one of the few spaces where I didn't have imposter syndrome, or I didn't feel out of place, or I didn't wonder, if I was the token in the room, that everyone looked like me. So that was really, really important for me. And this program is so much bigger than just the actual competition. For me, what was most valuable to me, and I think it doesn't matter what industry you're going to be competing in. I think what's so valuable is the networking, the connections that you make, the mentorship, and then the feedback, and just going through that experience with a cohort of people that look like you, who have the same passions as you. You're supporting one another. You have peer mentorship. You have adult mentors. They do a lot to build you up as an individual outside of your craft at AXO, as I remember. And so a lot of my confidence I gained through the AXO program, and I continue to build on it. But again, I did some things during the AXO program that I never thought I would have the confidence to do. And that really, really helped me. So I would say anyone who's thinking about being a part of AXO, I highly, highly recommend it for all the reasons that I mentioned before. But especially if you're someone that finds yourself in spaces where most people don't look like you, and you feel like you can't amplify your voice or you can't be yourself. The beauty of this program is that everyone looks like you. We share a lived experience of being Black Americans. It's just a beautiful union to have with all of these people who look like you, who are supporting you, who are encouraging you, and who stay in relationship with you long past um, the competition. The decision is going to feel really big, especially at that age. I remember just feeling like it was such a big decision to make. And then also trying to talk myself out of it, feeling like, oh, I'm not good enough. I can't do it. My advice is to really take a leap of faith. If you're going to take a leap of faith anywhere, this is an excellent, excellent program to do so, because you're going to have all of the supports and all of the safety nets that you need to be successful. And then also embrace the process. Sometimes we, especially this society right now, everything happens so fast and we expect everything to happen overnight. But there's a lot of value in having a process and having a cohort of people that you can depend on, and some adults who know some things that you don't know. When I was in high school, I thought I knew everything too. But there are some adults who have been through what you haven't been through yet, and are going to help you and support you through the process. So I will say it will feel like a scary decision. My advice is that if you're going to take the leap with the AXO program, and I promise you, you will not regret it.
Hi, my name is Leah Threet. I'm originally from Syracuse, New York, but I've been living in the Albany area for about 10 years. Right now I live in Colony, but I've also lived in downtown Albany. I've lived in Pine Hills. I've lived in Guilderland, so I've seen most of the city from one angle or another. I'm an attorney. I went to Columbia Law School, and then after about 4 years in New York City, I moved to Albany and practiced at a law firm up here. And now I work for a private pharmaceutical company in their legal department. I manage governance of all our subsidiaries, and I manage our ESG program, which stands for Environmental, Social, and Governance. So that's working on reducing our carbon footprint, making sure diversity, equity, and inclusion is being implemented, and that we are always acting ethically with responsibility to the communities that we have operations in. My experience with AXO always makes me smile to think about. I signed up as a junior in high school for the local program. I entered in music composition and in poetry. And poetry was a little bit more of a lark. I took piano lessons, and music was kind of my thing I was hoping to get into college for. And poetry was really just something I did because I loved to write. It was the coolest experience. I got a coach down at a spoken word cafe in downtown Syracuse. She worked with me and two other team members once a week for probably 3 or 4 months, helping us get better at writing, reading our poems, practicing giving the poems in front of a crowd. It was so cool. I loved it. And so I went ahead and entered the local competition thinking the road would end there. And then I was amazed to find out I had won first place in the local competition for the poetry. And so I was able to go to the national competition. That was in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I was really just there for the experience. I had grown up in a suburb of Syracuse that was mostly white. So I really just loved any opportunity to be around other Black youth and, any chance I could to meet people. So to go to the national conference was really exciting. And I didn't care if I won or lost or placed at all. I didn't expect to. There were hundreds and hundreds of people there. And we had 3 or 4 days. Our local team shared hotel rooms. I think that was the summer Biggie Smalls' One More Chance came out, and we played that on repeat over and over. And Method Man and Mary J. Blige were like the 2 singles we had. We played in the hotel room over and over. Met a ton of people, had a great time. They had conferences and meetings, and we got to meet the head of the NAACP at the time. So the night of the award ceremony, I kind of was just excited to be there and couldn't believe my name when they read it as the winner of the gold medal nationally for poetry. I think I'll never forget it. And I ran forward, and our coaches were cheering, and all our local friends were cheering, and I got to go to the front of this huge convention hall and accept this gold medal, where I received a hug from Mamie Till, the mother of Emmett Till. I mean, it is just something I will never, never, never forget. And I don't write professionally now, but being a lawyer, you kind of are a professional writer. And the lessons I learned from that project were that you must write every day. You must do free writing every day, creative writing in some form. And it's something I still do today. It's how you express yourself. It's how you feel true to yourself. And whenever I speak to someone who's interested in being a lawyer, that's the number one piece of advice I give them. You must do free writing every day. You must be able to express yourself in writing as clearly as you do verbally to be able to succeed in this career and in many careers. So I'm really not exaggerating when I say that AXO changed my life. Led me on to go to college, to join a historically Black sorority, to become the president of my Black Alumni Association. It really set me up for just understanding that I belonged in Black communities and Black spaces, and that I was going to get unwavering support in Black communities and Black spaces. I very much don't buy into the idea that we're crabs in a barrel or something, because NAACP AXO was where I really started feeling that power of community support in the Black community. And it's continued my whole life. So I really cannot encourage a young person enough to get involved in AXO. It's worth every second. We just need to shine here and show people what Albany has to offer. We've got a great school system all around here. We've got a lot of talented youth, and it's really your time to shine and step up. So just know that sky's the limit. You really might find your name being called on a national stage one day, and it's a feeling that's so incredible. And I really hope that somebody watching this video is going to have that experience.
My name is Eto Otetekbe, and I live in Brooklyn, New York. I'm a visual artist based in Brooklyn, New York. I'm also an arts educator. I'm a professor of sculpture at Brooklyn College. My experience with AXO started with the local chapter of the Albany NAACP Youth Council. I was in high school when I first participated in the local AXO competition as a visual artist. I submitted a series of paintings and collage works. I placed high in the local competition enough that I was able to qualify for the nationals in AXO. And that must have been maybe around my junior or senior year in high school, probably my junior year, because that summer we went to, I still remember, it was Minneapolis for the national AXO competition. The competition was incredible. Met artists from all over the United States. It was really inspiring to see a bunch of young Black folks really pushing their talent and pushing their creativity. I still remember a lot about the competition. I remember the conversations I had with judges and being really honored to be able to share my practice with folks who were really advanced in the field and get feedback from them. And then also to see other young Black artists, approaching abstraction, approaching painting, approaching drawing in really unique ways that wove in stories about where they were from and where they were living at the time, but also who they were as a person and what their outlook was. I thought it was really amazing to see folks performing on that level. Oddly enough, some really notable artists were in the AXO competition when I was participating. Like Kehinde Wiley was, and he won, of course. He's always been an incredible artist, but to see, his paintings back then and then to see what he's doing now is just incredible. Angelbert Metoyer was another artist, who was creating these amazing large scale, polyformal, kind of surrealist paintings and things like that. And still, he's doing a lot of amazing work on the international scene now. It's awesome to see that, folks are carving space out for their creativity at a young age and through different networks, AXO being one of them, the NAACP being another one. They were able to, nurture their careers and sustain their careers. I had a really interesting career path. Right after high school, I studied engineering. I went to MIT and studied mechanical engineering. But I was still considered as an artist. During my summers, I would either get an engineering internship or I would go apprentice under artists like Robert Blackburn in the printmaking workshop, or Valerie Maynard, who had a studio in Baltimore, Maryland. Eventually moved to Jersey City and then Brooklyn and opened my own art studio. I've been creating public art and installation. One of my artworks, permanent public artworks, was just unveiled about a week and a half ago. It's in Mount Vernon, New York, and it's a tall kind of archway made out of steel and stone. By name, it's a tribute to Heavy D, who is a rapper from Mount Vernon, New York. And also right now, I'm a professor of art. I've been at Brooklyn College for about 4.5 years now. I'm the head of the sculpture program and also a co-deputy for the MFA program at Brooklyn College. If we think about like what we all collectively went through between 2020 and like 2022, and still, a little bit now with the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of people turn to art as a way to cope a lot of the difficulty that we were all going through. We turned to film, we turned to music, we turned to Netflix, and we turn to things that were creative just to help sustain us, right? So I think it's important for folks of color to be part of those conversations, to be part of what originates and generates that energy. A celebration is not something that's written onto us. It's not something that's presented to us. It should be presented by us and for us, in the way that we want it to be. There should be a certain degree of sovereignty in how we celebrate and how we create and how, our culture performs for us. Do AXO, have fun with it. It might be intimidating, if you haven't presented your work yet in public or with a lot of people, or if you haven't presented your work to people you don't know. But this is part of what getting out of your own way involves, which is so important for an artist. It's important for artists to always kind of shed your skin, right? And constantly grow and find ways to express yourself and share your voice with audiences so that we can expand, what normalcy is perceived to be, right? So I think that young folks should definitely take advantage of the extraordinary experience that AXO is and have fun with it.
Hi, my name is Elon Johnson, and I am the head of development, senior creative executive here at Tyler Perry Studios in Atlanta, Georgia. In my profession, I am the lead in the development wing, and that is essentially a space that finds and acquires great stories to tell in the different formats of whether it's television series, film, streaming, short form content. All the creative content comes through my office that comes from outside of the studio, and then I go through along with my team and vet and see if we can find great stories to tell. So my experience with AXO was absolutely wonderful. I got to be a part of it in my high school years in New York. was such a great experience, particularly because it was about a number of things. It wasn't just about this competition. It was about community, working with a group to a goal. It was about creativity, which also obviously filtered into where I am now in my career. And it was about this opportunity to travel as a young person and to meet other people in the same space, wanting to build and create and just take these things that were mere ideas into fruition in a bigger space. On a local level, it felt a lot smaller. And then when we got to the nationals, it was like, oh, this is a thing. And it was so important because it celebrated us so widely. And I think that you felt that whether you won the competition or not, it was just like so rewarding. When I was in high school, I competed in the poetry competition in AXO, and I performed a spoken word piece by Nikki Giovanni. And I think at that time, as a teenager, the seed of the spoken word, someone like a Nikki Giovanni, and this particular poem so celebrated Black women. And I think that I really gravitated towards that, particularly because it had so much bravado, and it just allowed you to be unabashedly proud of who you are and what power you bring to the world. And it did not feel like, I think about competition now, and it didn't feel so much like a nervousness. It felt more so like a happiness and an embracing, because it was just so many people that looked like me and didn't look like me, and taller and shorter and lighter and darker. And it just was like all this, like, just good energy. And I remember, like, even after I performed, it wasn't so much, there was this satisfaction of having completed the performance. One, obviously, Gwen Pope. I think she touched all of our lives in a way that Gwen was really a second mom, probably a first mom to some of us who might have had issues at home, but she really felt like a second mother, big sister for some of us. And now when I look back as an adult, I'm like, oh my goodness, she gave so much to us. She poured so much into us. So there was that aspect of it, right? Having this person who loved up on you, who pushed you, who just made it so that you understood your value and really wanted to see you do so much better, and do so much more than you could be doing at that one point. So I say that because that's the first thing, like having someone there that cares about you and cares about your livelihood and your future, and just in a time that you won't even understand how important it is. I think about my youth and how it compares to what I am doing today and where I am as an adult. I think about exposure, because that to me is probably one of the number one things that helps people to grasp those opportunities. So the advice that I would give anyone that is put with the opportunity of participating in AXO now is absolutely, like, you cannot afford not to take part in something like this. When I did it eons and eons ago, it was so rewarding. It was so welcoming. It was so wonderful. It was so creative. It was a vibe. Like, it was really, really a vibe, locally and nationally. So I would heavily suggest that if there's an opportunity that you can participate, please do. You will just come out so much of a better person with so much more understanding and great networking opportunities, and just the opportunity to get out of your local area and see what else there is and what the world has to offer, which I always stress to any young person. If you have these opportunities to see outside of your front door, you better go ahead and get your sunglasses and see and do what you can.